Wattrel is a new Pokemon introduced in Generation 9 that has the electric flying typing, which is absolutely excellent, as can be seen with Zapdos' success throughout the generations. It's overused in Generation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it has an Asian UU, it dropped a little bit, 6, 7, 8, and if it was in 9, it'd be in 9 too. But point is, electric flying is a really fantastic typing that Wattrel has access to, and it makes it really nice in Little Cup. Although, if we go to the viability rankings, it's only at a B- rank, down here with Voltorb, and the best electric type that we have is Magnemite. So the question is, well, what makes it so popular, and why is there an increase in usage as of late? In Little Cup Winter League, it was kind of funny, because sometimes you just see mirror matches where like, oh yeah, you know, both Wattrels on both sides. And then, even if we go to the first turn, it's like, oh yeah, they just both go first. And this happened multiple times where it's the mirror match. It's very funny. But what changed the attitude from this roughly B- tier Mon to like literal mirror matches because of how good the Mon is? What changed? What made Wattrel so good? As well as the other electric types in the tier. Well, as a little bit of a primer of like, oh, well, how bad was it before? Because I mean, like, oh, well, this is... I could just be saying it's not very used, and it's like, it's actually used, whatever. No, the thing is, it's B- here, and we have the usage stats for Little Cup. Before this current cycle, before February 2023, Wattrel was Little Cup RU, not even UU. The Little Cup UU, what that is that you take all the stuff from here, so like everything from Scorbunny upwards. That's all UU by usage. Everything else is UU. Little Cup OU, I should say. Little Cup OU is everything that's above, like, this threshold. Possibly Scorbunny in there, too. But, like, 26 Ismons. Everything else is UU. And then, from there, you check and see, oh, well, what's used in UU? And if there's anything below, like, a 5% usage rate, that's what goes down to RU. Yeah. Wattrel went down to RU, and it's A tier. Well, was A tier, because it's no longer there, because now it's an actually OU Pokemon, Little Cup OU. It's just Little Cup, but for clarity's sake, it's Little Cup OU. Like, it was not used at all. And then people realized, oh, wait a minute, Girafarig's gone, so, like, it doesn't just get one-shot by it. Maybe this is actually pretty good. And then people started using it and seeing tournament success with it. It's very funny. Funny how these things work out sometimes, you know? But with that being said, how does it really distinguish itself from the other electric types in the tier, being Bulkapur or the old Reliable and Magnemite? What makes all of these Pokemon so good in the current metagame? Now, before I get into it, if you could like, share, and subscribe, I'd very much appreciate it. For whatever reason, YouTube likes it when I say these things, because then it recommends my videos or whatever. But if I can get this into a not part-time job and make it a full-time gig, that'd be awesome. And the way to do that is if I get subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support so far, and if you can continue to support me, I'd very much appreciate it. So, what does Wattrel have that's really, really nice? Well, first, it has Volt Absorb, so it has an electric immunity, meaning that one of the best checks is itself. So there's that. But you have Roost for reliable recovery, you have Volt Switch for momentum, that could be really annoying to deal with, because, oh, well, you know, I can just go to a ground type, it's whatever, I don't have to worry about any of this electric type shenanigans. Yeah, then you also have secondary stab of flying, you can run Hurricane if you want to, you can also run Air Slash, which is more accurate despite the lower damage, but it's really hard to switch into this and threaten it very effectively without it trying to bonk you back, and bonking you back hard. You also have Thunderbolt, you can run Discharge as well, but you run typically it is, you run 2 Electric Stabs, Volt Switch, and then whatever else you want to run, Hurricane or Air Slash, and then Roost, and it makes for a really nice offensive pivot that can do a lot of work over the course of the game. Your stat line, it's okay, it's not fantastic. Like, Speed's good. 17 speed's really nice. Special attack 55, it's pretty, you can work with it. But defenses are pretty bad, and your HP's kind of lacking. That does mean that you have enough to do Life Orb sets, but you don't really see them very often because it's not very, like, it wants its bulk, and it can't really function as a Life Orb attacker terribly well. But having Volt Absorb as a nice electric immunity is always really nice because it's a Volt Switcher that isn't weak to Volt Switch. And it can be really annoying to play around, and that's very fun. And it also can do Terra-type Water as a really good defensive typing, so that way it can beat stuff like Voltorb, or just remove other immunities that it wouldn't have. And then there's, oh, well, Water is actually really nice, because you still have Volt Absorb, so your only weakness is Grass-type moves, which shouldn't be coming at you anyway because of your flying typing, and you can punch them really well. It's really hard to punish effectively, and that makes it really nice. Next up, we have Voltorb. It's redoing its Generation 4 success. It hasn't really been seen, and that's because it's got very lackluster coverage, and although it's got some really good stats, if you look at the stats, 50 defense, 55 special defense, 100 speed, same special attack as Wattrel, it's got some really, really good bulk. You're like, oh, it's whatever. No. It can take a lot of punishment. It's pretty surprising. And you have the fastest speed in the entire game. You have Taunt as a really good utility move. You can also do Substitute. I've seen that with quite some success, where you just substitute on your opponent, and they have to attack into you, and then you get a nice Terra Blast Ice in their face, and then you still are behind the substitute. It's... Ooh. And then you still have Volt Switch Thunderbolt. If you want to, you can run Discharge. But it could be really hard to switch around it if you don't have the correct tools for it, and Wattrel can't even check it reliably without Terra typing, because Terra Blast Ice. Bolt Beam coverage is really, really fantastic. And then the final one that we have is old, reliable Scarf Magnemite. It doesn't have any of the other sets that it has in previous generations because Berry Juice does not exist, so you can't run sturdy sets, so that's annoying. But you still have Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, you have Steel Stab, and then you have Terra Blast Ice, so that way you can punish the ground switch-ins. And you have really good stats. You got good defense, fantastic special attack, especially for this tier, good special defense, and then alright speed. You can run either Modest or Timid on it. Depends on how you want to play it. Either works. That's pretty interesting. But all of these have Volt Switch, and it's really good for gaining momentum. And the only thing that they don't hit are, well, Volt Absorb Mons, such as Wattrel, but if we look at that real quick, Volt Absorb. There we go. Literally only Wattrel has it, so it's literally like Wattrel or a ground type. That's it. So it's really hard to deny a Volt Switch, especially from Wattrel when it's got Hurricanes. It's crazy. It's just been seeing so much use lately because of how good this trait is. But what exactly are the ground types in the tier that you really have to be wary of? The ones that are really getting your way? Well, we got roughly 3. We got Mudbray. Mudbray is really, really tanky. If we go here, so we got Mudbray, Mudbray versus Wattrel. Wattrel has a rough time of it because it can only hit with Hurricane, and it's already really bulky on the special side. It's this very awkward exchange because typically Mudbray doesn't like running anything besides Heavy Slam in the 4th slot on the Restock set. Although on the non-Restock set, you can run something else. You can run Rock Move if you want to, but then Hurricane hits you significantly harder, and that can be really annoying to deal with. So there's that. But then you also have Stealth Rock support that it can use with its Stealth Rock set. So you have to be really wary around this, but it's not that too big of an issue. Also, because you have Voltorb has Terra Blast Ice, you can do quite a bit of damage to it. Same with Magnemite. Terrestrialization just really buffs these Pokemon beyond compare, because you can just do Terra Blast shenanigans with Terra Blast Ice and break through your checks, and it's really nice. It means that you can't use it defensively, which can be a bit annoying, but the offensive presence of just being like, oh yeah, you know, Bolt Beam coverage because I want to. There you go. So that's pretty nice. Next up, Diglett. Diglett's annoying because it's very fast, but if you'll notice, Voltorb ties it. If we go to speed tier, Voltorb ties it. Magnemite with a Choice Scarf outspeeds it, and Wattrel is immune to Earthquake, so it has to use Rock Blast. And Rock Blast, it's not bad, it's just kind of unreliable. So if we go to this Wattrel set again, and then we go to Diglett, Life Orb, like, it can do a lot of damage, but you're taking a lot back, and if you're not Life Orb Diglett, then you can't KO consistently, and even then, Wattrel isn't trapped because it's a flying type. So even these, like, oh, well, you know, it's a bad matchup because it's an electric immunity. It's like, well, it's very middling when it comes to being a bad matchup. So, and then also you have to predict, well, is my opponent going to go into something that can take Diglett's attacks, or are they going to stay in Hurricane? And you have to try and plan around that. It's really rough. So there's that. And then final one is Toedscool, and it just gets walloped by Wattrel. It's such a bad matchup for Toad, which is really funny, because a lot of the time you hear like, oh yeah, Toedscool's like S tier. And I mean, I said that myself. But the point is that it can't hit Wattrel, like, at all. And it's kind of funny. Oh, it's... Oopsie. That's the one I want. Yeah, Hurricane does a whole bunch of damage to Toad and has a hard time dealing with it, and it can do very little in return. Knockoff is annoying, but are you going to tell me that trading, like, Wattrel's Eviolite for destroying Toedscool, who is known to be the most annoying utility mon in the tier? No, it's more than worth it, especially if you can just hit your Hurricanes. I'm pretty sure Air Slash even... Air Slash KOs, right? Yeah, Air Slash double, like 2 KOs anyway. So... And there's also the flinch chance, and the confusion chance. So, being able to beat over the biggest annoyance in the tier, it's just so good. Also versus, like, Voltorb, and also Magnemite will just Terra Blast Ice, Toedscool dead, Bingo Bango Bongo, that's it. So, pretty cool. So even though like these are like the worst matchups, you can't deal with them. No. They're the stuff that's gonna mess you up. No, it's fine. You just Wattrel can't be trapped. It has a weird matchup versus Mudbray, but it can't really Mudbray can't really deal with it too well, and then has to rest his reliable recovery if it's running the rest talk set. At which point you can go into something else. Toedscool gets walloped because it's weak to flying type moves. Diglett can't trap it. Voltorb outspeeds all of these and can use Terra Blast Ice. Well, ties Diglett, but... And then Magnemite just outspeeds all of them. Terra Blast Ice. It's whatever. And then, even then, like, well, what exactly is going to be in your way? And the answer is, still not very much. Terra Grounds are annoying because it's stuff that would normally... like be weak to you, such as Shellos. Sometimes you'll see it on Quaxly, where just Terra Ground, and then, oh, well, now I'm just kind of stuck, because this one thing that I normally beat really handily otherwise is now just beating me. Although, Shellos I don't think can do too much. Like, Ice Beam is annoying, but you can roost off the damage, and has to do some really annoying predictions. So, also Terra Blast Ice just ruins it, so there's that. The Nasty Man and Gastly, who is likely going to get banned soon. We'll have to see. There's some for ban, some against ban. It's interesting. Has a really good speed tier, but it's kind of fragile. So you can outspeed it with all 3 of them and hit it, but it's still really annoying because it's really powerful to switch. Like, Sludge Bomb is really hard to resist. Hex plus his status conditions really annoying to deal with. And then it's got some coverage moves in here that it can just run whatever. If it wants to run Terra Blast Fighting, and then just hit Magnemite on the switch, it can. So it's really hard to get a lot of progress versus Gastly. It's quite annoying. Next up, Deerling. Obviously, like, this can still Terra, and you can Terra to beat it, but it's faster than Wattrel, and then it can do some really annoying RNG stuff because of Thunder Wave. It has Headbutt, it has Body Slam, it has a bunch of stuff going for it, and it keeps itself healthy with Synthesis, so it's really hard to get in like much progress versus Deerling. The issue with Deerling is that despite the fact that it's a really annoying RNG fest mon, it's just kind of passive. Its attack isn't high enough, so I mean, you can kind of... If you get like 1 or 2 free turns versus it, you just basically win the game. Or win the interaction, I should say, not the game. But with that being said, it can be really annoying to deal with because it outspeeds Wattrel by 1 point. It's got good defensive utility because it's got 60 HP, 50 defense, 50 special defense. That's really good for the tier. So, hard to deal with. Also, any and all entry hazards, you hate having poison, you hate seeing stealth rocks, especially if you're going to Terra Ice, you hate seeing spikes. It's really annoying to have to deal with any and all entry hazards as any of the electric types, but Magnemite probably gets out the easiest here, without, like, because it has, on baseline, the rock resist from the steel typing, which also gives it a poison immunity, so, I mean, it's not terrible for it. It's just that you don't want to have any more damage than you've already taken, and then Terra Ice means that you're weak to rocks, and if you're Wattrel, that means that you lose your immunity to spikes, all that sort of stuff. It can be really annoying to deal with, because one of the things that you like doing with your electric types is just coming in very often, so you can just start using your electric type moves. It's fun. But what exactly are you going to be hitting a lot when it comes to the electric types? And the answer is quite a lot of stuff, surprisingly. Marianne, one of the best walls on the tier, even in Girafarig meta, it was considered A- rank. It's really strong. Yeah, you just Volt Switch Thunderbolt Discharge on this all day, and there's not all that much you can do about it. It doesn't very often run Terra Ground. It much prefers a more defensive profile. It likes Terra Water to remove the poison weakness, and then boosts Surfs. It likes using Terra Ghost, so that way it can escape trapping from Gothita, that kind of stuff. So it can be quite the liability. And Mariani also wants to come in quite a bit because it has the ability Regenerator, which when it switches out, it gains 1/3 of its maximum HP. So it's really easy to keep it in, take a whole bunch of hits, and then exit with it. So you can get a lot of damage on Mariani that way and force some really awkward switches. Next up, we have Drifloon. And it's sort of like the second Fiddle Ghost type of the tier, but because it's a flying type, it just really, really invites in electric types. It can't hit them too hard with acrobatics. If it wants to use Destiny Bond shenanigans, then it has to. With Wattrel, it's speed ties. They both have 17 level 5, so you kind of have to chance it there. Or he just get outsped by Voltorb and Magnemite, so there's that. It can be a bit annoying with substitute shenanigans, but with that being said, it's really easily dealt with by an electric type because it can't hit it too well. Next up, Quaxly. I'm continuing to... It's just so bad in current metagame. I can't... It's a cool design, because it's like, you know, like a little bit of pop store, go for it. But it's just so bad. It loses to all the grasses because they just shock it. And it's like, oh, well, you know, I can do like Terra-type grass. And then I won't have to deal with the grass, not as electric type weakness anymore. It's like, no. Then you get schwacked by Wattrel using flying type moves, as well as Terra Blast Ice. And you're also pretty slow, so it's not a good time. It just needs Gastly to leave the metagame, otherwise it's just so bad. I went to come in and rapid spin, and then I get spin blocked, and then I try to attack into Gastly, and then I get burned for my trouble. It can reliably force in Gastly if you want to keep rocks up, but it's just like, just Gastly just terrible for Quacks. It's really annoying. Wish it was better. Oh, also your coverage move is typically Brave Bird if you want to run Brave Bird, and then can't even hit the electric types with that. So Quacks may fade at, like, I want to say like, oh yeah, it's gonna go into the background. It's not gonna be used anymore. It's like, no. It's a rapid spinner. It ain't going nowhere. It's still got reliable recovery, rapid spin, and then it can be used with Moxie. It ain't going anywhere. It's still good. It's just that it needs the meta to shift a little bit more before it becomes better. So next up, Pawniard, which is kind of funny because, well, shouldn't that have like a neutral matchup? It doesn't have a weakness. It's like, so it's whatever. Yeah, but it's a really bulky bond that you want to have come and take a whole bunch of attacks. And it's very often the one that's just like, oh yeah, so Pawniard, we need to take a hit here, and I don't really have a good switch in, so Pawniard just has to take it. You also can Volt Switch for free, if not borderline entirely free. Well, as in like, oh well, you can just Volt Switch on it, and then it's forced to either use Sucker Punch or predict what's coming in, or use Stealth Rocks, at which point you can get something that's more favorable than the Pawniard matchup in versus it. So it can be really hard for Pawn to deal with. And it could also be running Swords Dance, and that can be annoying with Sucker Punch, but it's just like, oh yeah, we'll just shock you, and it's like, whatever. So there's that. Very fun. And now let's go to some tournaments, some tournament play with Little Cup Winter League. This one is Colette versus Floss. Floss is my teammate on Bagons, and you're gonna see how good Wattrel is at just opening up the enemy team immediately. But you want to lead nothing but Wattrel here. Versus Diglett, it's a neutral matchup. You can switch out, you can do whatever and react to it, it's fine. Gothita, it can't trap you because you have Volt Switch, so you can just leave. They don't run Terra Ground. Toedscool just gets obliterated by a Hurricane. Pawniard's neutral, but it's kind of bad for Pawn because you want to preserve it for stuff that isn't Wattrel, like checking ghost types, being able to attack into Toedscool, that kind of stuff. Crab just dies to Hurricane, but it's a speed tie, and then you don't set up Shelter on a Wattrel. I know that I did it on a Voltorb, but like it's really hard to justify using Wattrel and Shelter, and you have to use your Terror really early, at which point you just have so many resources that you can deal with it. Mare can eat, if there's rocks up, Drifloon can do some annoying shenanigans, that kind of stuff. And then even on lead matchups, like, oh yeah, Crab versus Wattrel, and then the interaction I said, like, yeah, just Hurricane, bam. And that's so good for the rest of the team, because there's 2 darks, there's Poniard and Sandile, and that just opens up the entirety of your team to just sweep the rest of Colette's team, and it's so good. And then you just will switch out, it's whatever. And I don't even think, if I go to the calc real quick, Crabrawler versus Wattrel. Yeah, Ice Punch doesn't even kill. So, perfectly fine to just go for that Hurricane. 75% chance to hit Oko. And then just from there, it sets the entire pace of the game, and it's so hard to switch around. So yeah, and then I don't think it ever comes in again, but there's such an advantage already present. Like, oh yeah, you can just rapid spin block, that's fun. But yeah, like just wins from that. Not even like it's just that, you know? Just lead it, use Hurricane, and then you just demolish your enemy team. It's crazy. And then we also have the, oh yeah, we're just gonna lead the Wattrels and then just go for this really annoying 1v1 because we have to. Nothing switches in well to this. It's just like, oh, you know, Deerling's annoying, yeah, but it doesn't want to switch into Hurricane. Yeah. You have to play really cautious. The Limit can switch in kind of okay. And then it's kind of annoying. But then, like, Wattrel just comes back in, it's just like, oh crap, oh, how do I deal with this? My own Wattrel, of course. It's just kind of funny. Also, to address the, oh, well, if your best check is yourself, it's not very healthy now, is it? Well, just look at the stat line again. It's just not fantastic, and also anything that outspeeds Wattrel is a significantly worse matchup for it. Like, if we go to this, like, Gastly's really bad for it because it can just hit it with a really hard Sledge Bomb, and Wattrel can do a good amount of damage back, but it's really hard to get too much. It also has to switch in quite a bit because, like, if the rocks are up, it's not broken, but it's still like an excellent glue utility mod. And then Hurricane, I think it just gets confused. Yeah, and then it hurts itself in a confusion that's really bad. Yeah. This is sort of how the Wattrel 1v1 goes. And then, like, yeah, you go into Deerling, and then you just sort of threaten it. Also, cool nickname. Elfu eventually ends up winning this one because of some RNG stuff. Saw the Wattrel. Yeah, Wattrel. But yeah, it just comes in. Like, and even though it's coming in on something that it really wants to in Mare, it's not broken. Because, like, oh yeah, we'll just... That's a really bad detriment for it. It's just kind of elusive and hard to hit, and that's just, it's sort of just proving like, oh yeah, you know what makes Zapdos good? It's because it's so hard to hit. And also you can flinch it down, that's fun. How does Alpha even beat this? Does he just luck it, or... Discharge, Para... Ice Beam does a good amount of damage. Do you go Deerling? I feel like you predict that, yeah. But then Gastly comes on in, and then you just threaten a KO, and then bam, and then that's when it finally goes down. But it's just, it warps like this entire game because you have to deal with it. Is it Scarf Gas? Yes, it is! Okay! Well, the more you know. But then Alpha wins, so. But there's even more of this where it's just like, oh yeah, I leave my Toad, and like, oh well, crap, I have to... Like, even if you knock it, and JCBC eventually wins this game, it's just like, oh, well, Wattrel versus Wattrel is just... If you have a Wattrel, you have to use it to check the other Wattrel. Because it's just like, oh, well, I have a flying resistant electric community, and I'm even benefited from switching in on the electric move, so... And it's just kind of funny how, like, oh yeah, this is just like some dumb little bird that, like, not many people thought too highly of, even to the point that it went down to RU. Also, RU's fun. Go and play it. There's a Discord server for it. But point is, it's like, sometimes you just have to let metagames develop, man. Like, Wattrel is surprisingly really good, even though it seemed like really bad at first. It's pretty crazy. But it just goes to show you, like, Zapdos typing is just really, really good. And the other ones aren't even a slouch either. Like, Voltorb having really fast Bolt Beam coverage can win you some games. It's pretty crazy. I don't think... Oh, actually, I can probably bring that up if I have... No, I don't think I have it on me. Well, what can you do? There was just a game where I did really well with Voltorb. But point stands, like, Voltorb, Magnemite, and Wattrel, you have to really keep on the radar. Even though they may seem like They're not too important. Wattrel's stats are bad. It's got good speed, but nothing else. Voltorb has got no coverage moves, and you need to use Terra. And then Magnemite. I mean, like, Magnemite's pretty good, though. But point is like, feel free to experiment and see what's good in the metagame. What do you like? What don't you like? All that sorts of stuff. It's really fun. And I think, just sometimes the best Pokemon just come from these really weird, really kind of wonky BSTs and stuff. But play around with it. See what kind of stuff you want to use on your Wattrel. Do you want to use Weather Ball and have it on a rain team and then be a really good electric type check so that way you're not bowled over by electric types like Voltorb? It's pretty cool overall. Thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could like, share, and subscribe, that would be awesome. And you can comment down below of stuff that you want to see in the future. I think my current plan of what I want to get done next is possibly do a laddering video because somebody requested it. But the issue is I'm not the best at laddering. So I'm going to have to come up with some sort of heat team idea and then start laddering with that and do a video on that. That'll be fun. But otherwise, if you have any other suggestions, any other, I think you can improve on this. I think that you should include more replays from Winter League. You should include other tiers, that kind of stuff. Just let me know. The current focus is Little Cup, so I don't plan on really deviating from that. But just let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you all very much for watching, and have a good day.